kind of. All right. Well, welcome everyone to the People Strategy Forum podcast. We're a show that guides leaders how to elevate the workforce overall. So we share these ideas to help you have more happier and more productive employees. So we believe that people are at the heart of successful organizations, and team members' well-being, rewards, and career development are essential to a happy, healthy, and highly productive workplace, as I mentioned. So this show discusses those practical and effective leadership strategies for top executives, senior professionals, and talent managers. So today we have a special guest. I'm going to introduce Michael in just one moment, but I wanted to acknowledge our hosts today. So first of all, we have Howard Nisewitz. He's a senior compensation professional and strategic HR advisor with over 30 years of experience. So thank you for joining us, Howard. We also have Sumit Singla as an experienced HR consultant, and he has a diverse background working at companies and firms like Accenture and Deloitte and Aon. And so Sumit brings his best all the time. So we're pleased to have him here. And then also we have Shar Miller. Shar is a human resource consultant, a business owner on multiple fronts. She's a chief human resource officer at Rocky Mountain Health Advocates, and also has her own coaching business, Mountain and Sea Career Strategies and Mountain and Sea Health Advocacy. So thank you, Shar. And then, of course, myself. My name is Sam Reeve. I am the founder of Comp Team, and I am a global compensation and talent management professional, helping organizations scale their practices so that they can grow and maintain those happy, high-performing employees. So today, I want to welcome our listeners out there to really understanding how to harness change. And today's topic we have is navigating change with assurance. So let's warmly welcome our distinguished guest, Michael Hunter, the mind behind Uncommon Change. With a fascinating journey that began at the realm of coding, Michael used to be in the software development and so forth. So he really knows technology and how fast it's changing in the world. He's going to take us through what he does to help other organizations harness change and share his wisdom with us. So welcome, Michael, and it's a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you, Sam. I'm happy to be here today.
So as we start off, I would love it if you could just share a little bit about your background. How did you come from being in the engineering function, technology, and really driving from products to helping leaders really understand how to change and creating those cohesive teams and so forth?
Well, this is something I've always done, whatever I've been engaged in, whether I was in the 6th grade helping students in the 1st and 2nd grades with the subjects they were struggling with, or early in my software career, helping the others on my team to figure out how can we develop software more effectively with higher quality, more accurately reflect what our clients are asking us to create for them. And what I found over time is I was less and less excited about doing the coding and design part of it, and more enjoying doing the coaching and mentoring. So I found roles and just did that mentoring coaching more and more. And then eventually I got to a point where I wanted full control over who I worked with and to be able to do this full time and not as oh, yep, you're a great software engineer. And so we're happy that you can also help us with the coaching and mentoring. So that's when I started building my own business so that I can do this full time.
And so what do you see? What is the most common issue that you see as far as leaders and needing change in their organization? What is the most common issue that they have?
One really common problem slash gift is unexpectedly rapid growth. So many of the people I work with go from, like, one of my clients in less than 5 years went from straight out of college to a lead engineer. Another client in about that same time frame went from being a brand new manager to being a director of engineering for a 60-person engineering team. And when we have this rapid career growth, we don't have the time to sort of learn as we go and to integrate what we're learning. It's today I'm in a little tiny town in the middle of Missouri. Tomorrow I'm in New York City. I don't know. I haven't had time to sort of build up to those intermediate size cities and understand, how I get around in a town of 150 people is going to be very different from how I get around in New York City, and who is safe to talk to and where it's safe to go at what points in time, and just how do I go buy groceries or find a babysitter and all of those things. And so we feel really off balance, and we're not sure, how do we even figure out where we want to go? What do we even want to do today, let alone what my 1 year or 5 year or 10-year plan should be? And because we're leaders of often big teams, it's not just ourselves that we're trying to figure this out for. We have 50, 100, hundreds or thousands of people that are relying on us to help them find their way as well. That's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, and so navigating change, I mean, as we have the topic of our discussion today, navigating change with assurance. I mean, change is just something that's coming at a faster and faster pace all the time. I mean, it's just amazing. This year alone, I feel like we're just moving into science fiction. Things are moving so fast. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
One newsletter I get to every day has a list of, these are all the new AI tools just today that are doing amazing things, and many of them are, leaps and bounds ahead of what was available just yesterday. This is crazy when we think back to 100, 150 years ago, when, going from the pace of change was much smaller and came much farther apart. Where today it's, if you haven't kept up in the last 5 minutes, the world may have completely changed.
And so how do we keep relevant with all this change? I mean, I know that we're not in this alone. There's millions of other humans that have to go through the same amount of change and turmoil that the rest of us do. But it just seems like there's so much going on. I mean, how do we keep up with it all?
What I find is most helps is to understand what change even means to us. And we all go through a consistent process in change. The specific model of change I use is the Satir change model, named after its originator, Virginia Satir. And in this model, we have time on the x-axis, where now is the left edge, and then points forward or on the right. And then on the y-axis, we have performance and emotions. And these are both here because I find our performance and our emotions tend to track with each other. When we're feeling really good, we're also probably doing really well in our job, whatever we're focused on right now. When we're feeling really confused, depressed, dismayed, uncertain what is going on, our performance probably isn't so well as either. So here, that neutral of, well, I'm not really happy, but I'm not really sad either, is that 0 point where the x-axis comes in. And the way change works in this model which I find works really well for everyone that I've explained this to. So we start out in the late status quo. So this is where we are right now. We're not necessarily happy here, but we understand how to make things work. We understand how to get through our day. We know what to do to make things work well enough to get done what we need to do. Then along comes a foreign element. This is the change. Now, this might be something really small, like it was supposed to be all rainy, but actually it's sunny out this morning. I don't want to be in the office. I want to be outside playing. Or it might be something quite bigger, like the layoffs and organizational changes and all the political upheavals that we've seen recently, and anything else that has a enormous impact on our lives, and anywhere in between. So the first thing that happens after we recognize that change has inflicted itself upon us is typically resistance. What do you mean it's sunny out? I was looking forward to a gloomy day, so I wouldn't be grumpy about being inside doing my work. Or what do you mean my company just announced layoffs? Then where we tend to go next is dive into chaos. And here, where in the late status quo, our performance or emotions are in that neutral space, and then the foreign element and resistance, we kind of tend to be there because we haven't really processed what's going on yet. With chaos, our emotions tend to dive down and our performance tends to drop way down into that lower realm. And they tend to bounce around quite a bit as well. So at first we go in, I don't have a clue what this is going to mean. I'm really unhappy about being in the office today. How am I going to deal with this? And then we might hear something that makes it a little not so bad, and we're going kind of up and down. And this is in the chaos of, I don't know what this foreign element means for me yet.
Yeah, I think that this is an area where, like when companies go through a layoff, there's that it's a surprise, right? To a lot of employees. I mean, suddenly it happens, and then you don't know how to react to it. So it's, they're going to do it again? Is this the final round? I mean, so I can understand how that chaos, I mean, that drop in performance is super pronounced.
Yes, all of those things. We saw this. I've lost track how many rounds of layoffs at different companies. And the impact can linger for months, because even when the company is saying this is all we've done, we still never really know, well, is it really done? And once that trust is broken of, oh, they really can get rid of me at any point, then you're kind of always wondering a little bit, is today the day that's going to happen to me? What happens eventually is a transforming idea parachutes in. And so this is a way that we can harness that foreign element, we can tame it. It may not be that we understand how to use that to our advantage, but we understand how to, might be a light at the end of the tunnel, a way to pull ourselves out of the chaos. And as we start practicing and playing with that, we head into integration. And this, as we gain experience with that transforming idea, as we figure out how to apply it effectively, then our emotions and our performance tend to head back up into the upper levels. And when it's a process change that has come in, then oftentimes we'll end up with our performance and our emotions higher, oftentimes much higher than it was before, because this process has streamlined operations or whatever happy things it was meant to do.
So real quick on this, I mean, it just seems like this is when we're coming through when there's some sort of change, we initially resist because we're processing it. We're trying to figure out what's next, how to harness that change. Often, as you see that integration, it does it always. I mean, I guess saying that it always turns out better. Sometimes it doesn't turn out better, right? Is that when you don't have a transforming idea that really comes into place? I mean,
If the transforming idea never shows up, or we don't find a way to harness that, then yes, we may stay in that chaos forever and never end up in a new status quo.
Is that where adaptability comes in? Because sometimes you may not be happy with the transforming idea, but you need to be able to manage it and deal with it both, on a day-to-day basis and emotionally.
I find adaptability doesn't show up just in integration. It's more, the more adaptable we are, the more flexible we are, the more able we are the more resilient we are,
Mm-hmm.
the better we are, able we are to traverse the entire process. We may not go as far down in the depths when we go into chaos,
Okay.
just because we recognize this is it's another change. Here we go. I know kind of what's going on, and this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that integration phase won't necessarily be a one and done, a transforming idea. Oh, I know exactly what this means. It'd take a few days or a few weeks to practice it in, and I'm up and running. It can be, and I'll get to that in a bit. So this is the general process that we all go through. Now, I am not the same person as Sam or Char or Sumit or Howard or any of the people joining us today. So our process also varies between each of us and also from change to change and time to time for each of us. So it may be that for me, the foreign element doesn't really ever have a big impact. However, I always go really big into resistance, whereas maybe Sam, the foreign element has a huge impact, but resistance he moves through pretty fast. And then maybe for Shar, like that chaos, it's just really hard to get through. And I'm totally making examples up because I don't know any of you that well enough to know where this is. So as we are in the midst of change and we're using this model to help us understand what's going on, we want to keep in mind that the way it typically works for us isn't necessarily the way it's going to work for us this time. And the way it works for us may not be the way it works for our family, for our friends, for our coworkers, for the people that we're leading, or for the people upper management chain. So we have this consistent process that also varies. And however much it's varying from time to time or person to person, it also helps us predict what's coming next. Because when that foreign element shows up, we're going to go into resistance, even if that's just a moment or two. And then we're going to head into chaos. And at some point, a transforming idea will show up, even if we don't recognize that at first, or someone else has to point it out to us because we don't realize what it actually is. And as we start playing with that transforming idea, going into integration phase, it may not just be, oh, I know what to do, and now I'm off and running and up into the new status quo. It may be, that wasn't my transforming idea. I don't know what to do with that. Now I'm back in chaos. Or, well, the part of that works, but the other parts didn't work at all. So now I'm back in the chaos because I'm not sure what to do. And so this process can be cyclical. It can be, if the transforming idea has sort of three aspects to it, one aspect may zoom right up into the new status quo, where the other two, or one of the other aspects, we're still churning through chaos, looking for a transforming idea for that. So it can get complex. But having this model, we can then map what we're experiencing against what we know generally is going to happen. And that can help make the process feel better, even when it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, so it seems like, when we're all used to change or change that's coming up, and we can identify when that's going to happen. But it sounds like, when we should be more receptive to reaching out for help and getting understanding what that transforming idea is. So if we know we're going through change, we sometimes we just bear down and try to figure it out ourselves. But it seems like, we can really quicken the process here if we, of course, reach out to our manager, probably talk to colleagues, get an expert in on a topic, somebody that's a change agent that can help us process this. Would you agree with that, Michael?
Yes, all those things can help. And also just by understanding the model, we can remind ourselves to be consciously looking for that transforming idea, so that as life happens, it's not just life happening. We can remember to sort of put everything through this frame and say, oh, well, maybe, something's coming along that's a transforming idea. So I can be more on the alert for that. And so more likely to recognize something that we might have missed otherwise. So rarely does one change come along at a time, and we get to go through the whole process before the next one shows up. More often, it looks like this, where we have, when we're lucky, one great big change that we're going through, and then a few smaller changes and a bunch of little tiny changes.
Yeah, so it's not just one, it's just one big change. There can be changes that happen throughout life and at the same time. And so it's like suddenly, yeah, there's a layoff of work, and then my car broke down, and then there's a whole bunch
And
of
my
things that
kid
you
woke up sick, and the
Yeah.
cat barfed hairballs all over my prized rug, and I'm out of milk for breakfast. Yeah, all these things can show up. Plus, it's sunny outside when the kids and I all have to be inside all day. And so this is one reason why, even when we are well up in that integration phase for maybe a big change, we can still feel really down, because the curves for each of these changes pile on top of each other and do graph math, so that our overall average of where we are may be really low, even though in some particular aspects we're really high. And the reverse can happen as well. We may be deep down in chaos for this really impactful change, and yet have a whole bunch of happy changes show up that bring us up into a new status quo that we really are feeling much better about ourselves or a situation. And so all of that happiness can raise our overall emotional level up from the depths it might be if it was just that impactful change on its own right then.
So I guess one question I would have here, I mean, just the point you just made, when we're going through change like this, and something may be somewhat negative, are you saying that and we can use other types of in changes that change our mental state, our mindset, such as happiness and so forth? I mean, if we is there a way for us to help harness that and go through that change more effectively?
Absolutely. So we could set up changes that we know will be happy for us, to help counteract change that is not so welcome. And this could be things as simple as, I'm going to buy a bunch of greeting cards that make me laugh and address them all to myself, and ask a friend to just send one randomly every so often so that I have these showing up at random times.
I think the more common application of change when I go through a negative thing, I just want to go buy a bucket of ice cream, and sit in front of
That
TV and
works
watch.
too. Yeah. We can go and watch a bunch of videos on YouTube of whatever makes us laugh or feel happy. Whether that's puppies and kitties playing the grass, or roller derby, or the cars crashing into each other, whatever brings us up, that absolutely can work. And it doesn't have to be that this is an unexpected thing, like those greeting cards showing up at random times. It can be, I know that going on YouTube and watching Donald Duck cartoons always makes me feel better. So anytime that the change is getting too much, I know I can employ that to help me come back to
and like a normal
come
state.
back. Yeah, come back to where I can handle what's going on with more aplomb.
So I think that one of the big pieces, I guess you could say out of this, is that if we're going through tough change and we find a positive distraction, just to make sure that it's healthy for us long term, right? So I suppose that's probably, maybe my bucket of ice cream is not, it's going to come with some consequences. I'm going to have to run some extra miles that week. So
and that can work too. If you know that when you eat that bucket of ice cream, you're always going to do the run, and that run helps you feel better as well, then maybe having the bucket of ice cream gives you an incentive to go on the run. That's what really helps you feel better, or that they both help you feel better in equal measure, and doing them both has a compounding effect. So one of the key things for us as leaders is to remember that our whole job is to be foreign elements. Everything that we do is bringing change to the people we work with, the people we lead, the customers that we are providing for. When we understand this model, then we can use this to help our teams and our customers and our management navigate the process and understand what's going on. And we can also remember that not only are we the foreign element for everyone that we're working with, we can also be the transforming idea. And if we instigate change with that frame of mind, then we can start out by saying, not just here's what's changing, but here's what's changing, and here's how I'm planning to help you work through it. Here's how it's going to help us all work better. Here are the specific things that we're going to do to help us all work through and come to terms and get through that integration phase. Here are all the processes we have in place, even if that's nothing more than you can come and cry, yell, complain about the change to me at any point, and I promise that I won't tell you how wrong you are.
yeah, so this seems like this is where I find where most managers go wrong, because when something happens, there's a shock to the market, a shock to the organization. Maybe let's say could be a layoff or a merger and acquisition. A lot of times what happens is it's announced and then communication stops, and
Yes.
and everybody freaks out. And so, yeah, that foreign element, I mean, making sure that leaders are going in and saying, hey, well, this is what's happening. We may not know 100% what's coming next, but we're going to keep the lines of communication. I mean, do something that's going to set expectations of, hey, you're not all in this, you're not alone on this. I mean, we're all going through this together, at least something, right?
Yes. And using this model can help us remember that every change is a foreign element, and ourselves and our teams could use some help finding the transforming idea out of that. So even something as happy as, hey, we just hired this really great new person coming in, it's clearly going to make the team better. And some or all of the team is probably, while they're excited for the new person to come in because it's taking some of their load off, they're probably also wondering, are they the new superstar? All the things that I'm great at, what if they're even better? Where does that leave me? And so accompanying that with, hey, this new person's coming in, isn't this so exciting? And then very explicitly and specifically helping each person recognize what's awesome about them that can't ever be replaced can make that whole process go more smoothly.
Yeah, that's just makes me think about what you just said in a positive way. You bringing a new member of the team, the manager can help socialize that person into the team by saying, not just introduction, but also doing icebreakers, bringing them into the circle, and then also creating that transforming idea about, with this new member, this new skill set that we brought in, how can we be even more impactful as an organization or in our commitment to our customers, right? I think that there's a lot of opportunity here.
Absolutely. So this is the key points with what I find is most helpful for helping people navigate change with assurance is to first remember we all go through this consistent process. Second, that our process is always varying from time to time for ourselves and between ourselves and everyone else. And then third, even with all its variations, knowing that process helps us predict what's coming next so that we can smooth that process for ourselves and we can help it smooth out for everyone that we're working with. And even with all that nice smoothing from understanding what's going on, we have all the changes that are piling on top of each other, and we're not always aware of what all those changes are or what may be affecting us right now. So we can't perfectly predict what's going on. The more we can keep all of this in mind, and then as we are bringing change to ourselves and to our teams, we can be not just that foreign element, we can also be the transforming idea.
So I've got a question here, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
As we work in very diverse teams and multi-generational, multi-geography, different career stages, different life stages, how does a leader maintain their own sanity while dealing with so many different aspects? Because I mean, sitting here in India, I might have a completely different approach to change than, say, somebody in the US or somebody in different parts of Europe or Africa. So how does a leader kind of blend in their approach so they don't really have to do 1,000 different things with 1,000 different people, but it's still not painting everyone with the same brush or just saying this is the prescription, now everybody go follow it, and change is happening whether you like it or not?
Yes. So there are three things that I find really helpful with this. And the first is understanding for yourself what helps you navigate life. As Sam was saying earlier, what helps you feel better when you're feeling down? And then recognizing the signals for when maybe it's time to go watch that funny video or go for the run. And also having in place mitigations for, oh, I'm getting those signals, it's time to go for a run. I'm in a big meeting, I can't just up and go for a run right now. So what can I do to regain some equanimity for now until I can drop everything and go for the run? Then the second thing is understanding what's most important to you, that you are aligning everything you do, like moving towards and aligning with. so that as foreign elements show up, as all the changes are happening that you're trying to figure out how to handle, you keep that North Star in the back of your mind, so you can, as you're evaluating all the different possibilities, you can be measuring each of those against what's most important to you, so that you can understand which one's most likely to help you stay most aligned with what you care about. And the third thing is to help your teams do the same thing. Understand for each of them, what do they need to do their best work? And how do we organize the team so that everyone's able to get what they need to do their best work all the time? We can't often do all the time, but we can often do a lot of the time. What is important to each of the people on the team, and what is important to the entity that is the team itself? And how can we mesh these all together in a way that everyone is moving closer towards what matters to them, while the team is also achieving what matters to the team?
I do appreciate everything you're saying, Michael, and I do love your graphics here. It's definitely helpful. I particularly like the graphic where all the changes are always happening all the time. And I just wanted to give you kind of a quick story of in my perception about this change, and then get your opinion about it. I come from a very corporate environment. I've worked in many different companies, from logistics to city government and predominantly healthcare. And it wasn't until the last several decades that I started noticing the concept of change agents, having, following various change models. In fact, at one point we had multiple departments in a 9,000 employee system. There were so many different change models being used at any given time that just the change models became confusing. So when I became an entrepreneur and I left that environment, because to me it felt like I always used the little tugboat in the big gigantic ship. It's like the changes in a massive 150,000 60,000 employee organization, a change would happen, such as affordable healthcare, or now COVID, or now needing to integrate a new system. The challenge was that the system was so large that the changes, it took years. I'm telling you, many, many years. And what was frustrating as a change agent and a talent management strategist is like, come on, folks, we have all these systems in place. We have all these change agents. We have all these models like the one you have here, which I think is great. So when I decided to start my own company, and, I don't know, between 23, 30 employees, whatever it was at the time, I decided to make change a topic on every single meeting. And we designed our meetings so that we talked about all the basics, operations, finance, customer, all that. But when we got down to the people, we would talk about the need for resilience, the need for agility, the need to be hardy to the changes that are going to be happening. And every single day, we're going to learn a new law, a new regulation, a new process, a new reimbursement procedure, a new compliance process. And so that my employees were just used to, okay, what's the change of the day? What's the change of the hour? Instead of, oh my gosh, here it comes. And when it was time for us to shut down the company due to compliance and assuring that we were doing the legal thing, my employees were like, great, you know what? I'm prepared to move on to my personal change and get a new position. So my question for you is, Michael, that was my long little story. What is your thought about really integrating the discussion about change? And I love your model, and really talking about it on a consistent basis, like literally, as I say, hardwiring it into meetings, one-on-ones, one-on-one discussions, because I'm telling you, today is moving, well, a lot faster than I remember when I was younger. I don't know about you all, But what do you think about making it a daily conversation with your staff so that it's not so disruptive in their lives as well as our productivity? What's your thoughts?
Absolutely. The more we can help our people become comfortable with change, or I'll say familiar, because it may not ever be comfortable for some of us. But the more we can make it familiar, then the easier time we'll have understanding what's going on and navigating. So I use an analogy when I'm training my dog. It's not that I say, okay, Athena, now this is the thing you do, and I show her how to do it. And then she looks at me and says, okay, Dad, here we go. And then she goes and does it. No, it's many, many repetitions of doing the first step and then the next step, the next step, with lots and lots of rewards of treats and pets and I love yous. And then eventually it gets to a point where it's just automatic. And it's the same with us, that so often change is dropped on us as, here's the thing, now everyone go and make it all work. And it's too big a bite. We can't eat an elephant all at once, at least not anyone I've met so far. And so it's much easier if we don't start with the elephant, but we start with something much smaller and more enjoyable of, here's a kitten you get to play with, or a puppy, or whatever your happy thing to play with is. And to just make that as sort of just shows up at random times, and this is a change. And so then this gives us the easy way to talk about how that change felt for us. And then we can progress to more and more complex and impactful things. And as we're going through the process, we become more and more familiar. And so it just sort of becomes automatic that that was a foreign element. Oh, that's a transforming idea. Oh, I'm in chaos. Oh, look, I'm in integration. Oh, I'm really in resistance right now. So it becomes a familiar thing rather than a rare and scary thing.
That just brings up something that just happened today. We're talking about, you're mentioning eating the elephant. And Howard and I just came from a call with one of our colleagues that she recently has lost 75% of her team. And so she's several people down. And of course, she still has stakeholders that are looking to accomplish the same thing and wanting that. And so in a situation where, there's been a radical change to your operating ability, how should a leader embrace that and take the next steps to be effective?
What I find most helps is to start by recognizing and naming to ourselves what we're going through. Wow, I've just lost 75% of my team. How am I feeling about that? I'm feeling anxious, scared, angry, happy if those 75% of the people were people that we found really hard to work with, perhaps. Whatever it is, just allowing ourselves to feel all the things that we're feeling. And then letting that go as much as we can. Is then we can recognize, okay, so where are things now? And what are my options? And when we look at options, we always have at least 3 options. Oftentimes we only see 1 or 2 of those at the first. But if we only have 1 option, we don't have an option, we have a mandate. If we only have 2 options, we don't have options, we have a quandary. If we have 3 options, now we start having real choice. And what I find every single time for myself and the people I work with, that those first 1 and 2 options are pretty easy to come up with usually. That 3rd option can be really, really hard. Then once we get that 3rd option, 4, 5, 6, 10, 50, 120 come rolling out. And so if we can put in that effort to find that 3rd option, will often end up with something much, much better. So this is navigating that change for ourselves. And then the best next thing to do is to help our team do this as well. And especially if you have a good enough relationship with your team that you can be at least a little bit vulnerable to tell them, this is what I've just gone through. I imagine you're going through something similar. We can talk about it if you want. We don't have to. Let me know, how can I help you navigate this change with more ease?
I think it's also, like you said, you have to admit to yourself that even though we want to do it all, we can't physically, mentally do it all. But I think there's something about, I don't know if it's American culture or what, where we feel we're invincible and, no matter what happens, I have to deliver. But I think there's something about being honest with yourself and being vulnerable and maybe putting yourself out there a bit that we're reluctant to do.
It does seem to be really hard in American culture. I don't have a deep enough experience in other cultures to know if it's as challenging throughout the world or if it's only specific backgrounds that have this. And it can be easy, even in the hard driving American corporate cultures. Getting there requires leaders being willing to do this for themselves and then to bring this to their teams.
Right.
A leader who's willing to stand up in front of a team and say, this is what this change has impacted me. These are the emotions that I felt. This is where I'm uncertain about how we're going to handle this. It can be really scary for the leader. It can really go contra to what the rest of the company says should happen. However, what I find over and over is the people around that leader will be massively changed. And in a way that helps them, makes them more resilient to change. And that bubbles out and over time will make a huge change to that company.
Great stuff. Well, thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
Well, we are coming up towards the top of the hour here, so I just wanted to share next week's speaker with our listeners. So we're going to be talking to Lizanne Metz. And so Lizanne Metz is going to talk to us about how to unlock pay equality, pay fairness, and how this can be done through data-driven job analysis. So as leaders out there, it's more important than ever, with pay transparency and the regulations that have popped up over the years to ensure that we're paying people fairly, we're treating people with respect and fairness. And so Lizanne is going to take us through a process of how to do that in a data-driven way. So I'm looking forward to that discussion. All right, so back to you, Michael. I mean, I guess the next big thing here is, we have some listeners out there that are going, yeah, well, I'm dealing with change all the time, every day, and interested in learning a little bit more about this model. How can they learn more, Michael?
Yeah, so two things. Everyone who's watching or listening, if they email me, michael@uncommonteams.com, and say, saw you on People Strategy Forum, would love a snapshot of everything you talked about. I have a short PDF that summarizes everything I've gone through today, including the graphics that Char loves. So email me, I'll be happy to send you that. And if you would like to go into more detail about the model and how you might use that to help your team, I'd be happy to chat about that as well. Email or use my online schedule to book some time. Be happy to talk. What I find is that first half-hour session oftentimes is its own foreign element, because we can really get in just half an hour to some of the deep details of what's really important to you and how can you bring that into your life, into your team, into your company in a way that is going to help be a transforming idea rather than just the foreign element.
And Michael, I understand you also have your own podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I do. I have an Uncommon Leadership interview show that posts every other Monday. And that is a conversation with leaders in and around software, because those are the clients I primarily work with, about their journey to seeing people as people and learning to leverage the unique gifts that each person brings. And that's a no fancy production. It's me and a guest on Zoom. I hit record. We talk for half an hour or so, wherever the conversation goes. And I throw that up on my website. And what I find really fascinating and have discovered, I feel really privileged to be able to facilitate these conversations, is that every guest, I give a choice of what question to start with, and then the conversation goes from there. 90% of my guests choose to finish that sentence of, in your journey of seeing people as people, when did you first recognize this might be a valuable approach? Everyone's answer is completely different. Everyone's answer is deeply impactful and insightful. And I find this is really a case in point of how the more we can engage each person's uniqueness and help them focus on what they love doing and bring their particular journey into the journey of the team, the more exciting and diverse and impactful, the more able the team is going to be able to do whatever the team is out there to do.
I totally agree with that. I think we're talking about the rapid pace of change. I mean, we're in a period of time and world history, I guess you could say, that the more we focus on the things that we love to do, and the more effective, happier, and more impactful we can be with that particular knowledge. I think that we're coming into a period of time where when things are changing so quickly, a specialization in our expertise is going to become more and more important, really drilling down to that core knowledge that we love to talk about, we love to research, and we love to be an expert in. And so getting to things in these bite-sized pieces to where we can really be the expert and also be the change agent in that particular topic. So
yes, and this enriches the world in two ways. One, we're a lot happier because we're doing all the things that we love doing. And so that happiness radiates out and the world ends up being more happier. And the second is, because we're not doing all those things we don't love doing, they're there for other people who do love doing those to pick up for us. And so we're helping them be happier because we're letting them do the things that they love doing. So it's all good all around.
that's right. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you again, Michael. I mean, I'd love to have you on the show. It was a great discussion on change, especially a very timely discussion on what everybody's going through right now. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Michael.
it.
All right. Take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the People Strategy Forum.
Take care all.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.